It's been nearly 7 months since Helene brought devastating flooding and everlasting impacts to the Carolinas. I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, and welcome to this edition of the Carolina Weather Group for April the 30th, 2025. Carolina Weather Group brought you to Chimney Rock and Lake Lore in December to show you one of the hardest hit communities in Western North Carolina that were impacted by Helene's record-breaking flooding right here along the Broad River, wiping out the popular tourist town. Well, now nearly 7 months since the storm, rebuilding efforts have continued. And we're going to take you back to Chimney Rock tonight to see what the latest recovery efforts are like in that small town.
The road to recovery in Chimney Rock is a long one. Helene took its toll on this beloved mountain town. But Mayor Peter O'Leary says hope survives in the form of thousands of volunteers, some coming from near and far to help. These volunteers are members of the Great Needs Trust, an Amish community in Pennsylvania.
We wanted to help the people that had the disaster. Our heart just felt.
That's reporting from WCNC Charlotte's Jessie Pierre. Jessie joins us tonight to talk about her recent reporting there in the mountains, and I'm also joined on our Carolina Weather Group panel by Frank Strait in Columbia, South Carolina. So good evening to all of you.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on, Jessie. Long time no see since work this afternoon.
Right, exactly.
But thank you for coming on the podcast. Now, you went up to Chimney Rock and filed several reports that WCNC Charlotte viewers saw in the month of April. What were your impressions when you first rolled into town?
Well, I actually first went to Chimney Rock when the storms, like in the early times of the devastation in the storm. And so I remember when Governor Cooper came to actually do a visit of the area. And, that's at that time you can see a lot of the debris, a lot of mud had piled on everywhere, businesses destroyed, homes and, cars. It just a lot of devastation there. And then you also saw a lot of collapsed roads. Now, when it comes to, being there just a few weeks ago, you saw all of the cleanup had been done, right? So now it's kind of like in that recovery effort level. All of that mud and businesses has been cleaned out. And some of those, if you go inside some of those structures, you could see like they were putting fresh, a lot of places have to be completely gutted out.
Sure.
And so a lot of work is being done. And if you look at it wide, it seems like there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but they're really proud of where they are, nearly 6 months later.
Yeah, I know Frank and I were looking at, there's paved road right here in this video that we're seeing that you shot just a few weeks ago compared to the video that Frank and I and Dan Whitaker and Brad Panovich shot when we went up there in December for their Christmas market.
Mm-hmm.
They were still working to haul off a lot of debris and certainly still a lot of work left to be done. But, the road between Chimney Rock and Bat Cave, for instance, didn't exist. But I look at your video now and I see some hope and resilience in it as they're continuing to rebuild. Is there, would you say, inspiration flowing through the community?
Oh my gosh, I don't think there's anyone you could speak to out there that is not empowered to with this mission to recover, rebuild, and Chimney Rock will be back. And, Chimney Rock is a small, tight-knit community. And so a lot of the people there, they know each other and this is home for them. And there is no other home than Chimney Rock. So, the feeling in general is, yes, we're going through this. This is what's, this is what happened here. This is a devastation, which a lot of them didn't expect it was going to be this bad, but their whole feeling is that it's going to rebuild and be back better, stronger. They're, even as they're building, they're making plans to make it, structurally, stronger and so forth, so that they don't have to deal with this when another Helene comes through, right?
Yeah, our viewers on YouTube and Facebook right now see you talking to the mayor, who I learned is also the general store owner, which seems very fitting for a small town. I'm here.
He
Right,
actually,
it was like this
he
seems
was
right.
really, he was hilarious, but he was a really great guy. He actually got a job. He used to work at the state park there, and so
the Chimney Rock State Park.
There, and so he started there, and then he's in Chimney Rock and so forth, and when that job or contract ended, he kind of, I think, started his business like about 30 years ago, the general store. And then he got married, had kids, and he has like a lot of family there. And so it just kind of, he said it's one of those places that there's so much magic to it that you never leave, and that's what
Yeah.
happened to him. So
The
yeah.
experience we had when we went in December was somewhat similar. You mentioned marriage, and at the time, they didn't have us walking along the streets like they did with you here more recently.
Mhm.
In December, there was still so much debris. They were bringing us in on like a chartered coach bus, and they had local town residents acting as tour guides, narrators. And the woman who was our narrator on the bus, I remember, got choked up and teary eyed when she pointed at the venue where she had been married. There's a local
Yeah.
resident kind of walking us through. And Jesse, you just mentioned it. The mayor talked about the old Chimney Rock being gone, but a new Chimney Rock that he hopes will be amazing. So, what do you think makes this town so special for those?
Kind of a little bit of like what I mentioned as far as them being a tight knit community. Everyone knows each other, small town feel. And then, even when you walk through Chimney Rock, there's a charm to it, and it's a place where, they feel safe there. It feels like a family there for everyone there. And so it's kind of something you kind of just don't get everywhere, and so they're a nice, strong community and very much family based, and there's no strangers in that community, and that's
Hmm.
kind of what really makes it special.
So, Jesse, I was looking at one of the B-roll videos and noticed there's actually a paved road there in Chimney Rock that wasn't there before because the highway had been washed out. So, tell me, aside from that, what other kind of progress have you observed there in Chimney Rock, from roads and bridges being repaired and reopening to any new businesses that have reopened since Helene hit?
Well, the one thing is their mission is like they want to be partially open by this summer. That's their goal. And so what we've seen is that, they've had hundreds of volunteers come every week, and that's really been their livelihood. Volunteers coming from different states, volunteers coming from close, folks coming in to help them clean up and kind of start rebuilding businesses by businesses. So in some of the videos, and I don't know if we'll see them in the clips, you'll see a lot. The volunteers are kind of focused in like getting the businesses back together. Now they also have NCDOT that is working on rebuilding a new bridge that will connect to the state park, because the old bridge that was there completely washed away, and that's what kind of caused a lot of the damage, right? You're thinking such a heavy steel piece kind of coming down the river.
Wow.
And so just breaking foundation after foundation of homes and kind of dragging it down. So now there's a completely different one that's going to be rebuilt. They have temporary bridges, but it's and even temporary roads as they continue to build on the major projects, which will take some time. So even with this paved road, I'm not sure if this paved road, like, how long that stays there, because on the side of it, you actually see the real road that they're going to actually supposed to rebuild or work on or try to see about connecting and so forth. So a lot of the work is really from the volunteers kind of putting plywall, and a lot of the buildings have new floors and so forth. And another thing that they're doing is they're not letting any of the resources go to waste. So a tree that may have fallen or a home that was destroyed, and this is again like that family vibe of like, we're a community and this is home. This woman lost her home, but she's saying everything you can save, use it to, fill other buildings and so forth. So, wood from some of the destruction was used to make new counters,
Wow.
And there's one of my stories. They designed a counter, and it has like water inside to show the Broad River that is in there. And there's rocks in there that they designed in there. And it has a name of each person that worked in that building, So that's kind of like, again, adding the charm, this devastation happened, but we're flipping it. And, we're not letting this tragedy, bring us down. We're going to use it. We're going to get stronger. And you see it through some of the signs of the rebuilding,
Yeah, I mean, even after they get everything rebuilt, there'll still be almost those lasting threads
For
that
sure.
will document what they went through and how they got the town kind of rebuilt and reopened. Jesse, you mentioned some of the folks who were coming from out of state. We heard a bit from one of your stories a few moments ago here on our show tonight. Individuals from an Amish community in Pennsylvania that made their way all the way to Western North Carolina. In your
Mhm.
conversations with those folks, what drove them to come all of this way to help this small town?
So I spoke to the main, I guess the lead in that group, and he says they're from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and
Hmm.
I guess there was a few members there once the storm happened. They said that they wanted to figure out a way to help, and then every week about 40 volunteers have been coming together, and they come out to Chimney Rock or Bat Cave. I think there was like a couple of areas that they were
Yeah.
working at, and they would spend a week here and come work. But at the end of the day, their whole thing was, this is kind of how would I say it, it's kind of like their mission and their job as a
They're calling in a way.
their calling, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
to give back, to help others. And it's not about them, actually. And that was another thing they mentioned. Like, it's not about us. Don't thank us. It's about God. And it's about, this is what we're here to help each other, to help others when there's crisis and things like that. So that's kind of what the message was for them, from
Wow.
them. And also too, Spokes of Hope is the
Yeah.
main organization that has been kind of working with all these organizations, all these groups that are coming. They're the ones that are, kind of the head of the operations and working through with all these volunteers, letting them know what work needs to be done and so forth. So they've kind of been the main group kind of leading the volunteer efforts and the work that's being done inside the businesses and on the main road.
And they're so resilient. I remember they were there in December along with City Serve and other groups who would come out for the Christmas event that we were able to attend. So, it's fabulous to still see them there all of these months later. Jesse, you mentioned a woman you had talked to. I believe she might own this shop that we're seeing here on the screen. And I think she talked to you about these like little artifacts that survived the storm. I think she told you that she lost her home, lost most of her shop within minutes of the storm and the flooding beginning. But then there were just these little things like a signpost that says the Hickory Nut that survived. I saw you in your storytelling kind of use those pieces to kind of help us, the viewer, get a little piece of what life might be like inside the emotions for this woman. What are those lasting things, those treasures like for the people of Chimney Rock?
She was another person that's been there for like 30 years. Her home, she lived downstairs in the building, and then the upstairs was the storefront of her store, the Hickory Nut. And she was actually there with two others in the home when the storm happened, and they eventually had to just rush out of there because the water from the river and everything was just rising so high. And within minutes, the home, the business, everything just kind of washed away. And when she showed me pictures of what it looked like before, all you see is her sign. And then there's this white lamp right in front of her building that's still there. And so she has a photo of before and after. And it's just like, wow, I can't even imagine, because it's literally, there's a hole. You know what I mean? It's like the foundation for her space got completely ripped away. And so the fact that there was a whole business, a whole, her livelihood, she sold plants, and they also sold antiques and different things for gardening in her shop. And so luckily on the other side of the mountain, they have a nursery. And so they were growing plants and so forth there. So that is where they use that space to actually create a 3-bedroom situation, you know what I mean, until they rebuild. But even if you speak to her, you would think she didn't go through anything. You know what I mean? She's not letting this keep her down in any kind of the way. And her whole thing is like, we'll be back. You have to go through some bad times sometimes to get to even better times. So,
I mean, that is an unbelievable outlook and spirit to be able to carry through for so many months. I don't know that I would be able to maintain that.
Yeah.
That motivation for so long. Frank, I know your parents live in Western North Carolina, not in Chimney Rock or Lake Lore, but in the general area. You know, Frank, you've been back several times to the area, as have different members of the Carolina Weather Group. I mean, Frank, what have you seen each time you've gone back in terms of in progress in your own experience?
Well, each time it's been kind of incremental progress toward
Mhm.
getting things back to a new normal. And really, the areas where I frequent around Polk County were not as severely damaged as the area along the river there in Chimney Rock and Lake Lure. So you can certainly still see damage if you go to the back end of Lake Adger, for example. You can see they're doing a lot of work there, like they're doing in Chimney Rock. It's the scale's nowhere near as great in that area, but they are having to clean up a lot of debris in that area at the entrance to Lake Adger there from the Green River. It took them some time to build a temporary bridge over Highway 9 just below the Lake Edger Dam that was destroyed by the flooding from Helene. And there's a lot of trees down in the river channel still there as well that were kind of swept downward by the river, not swept away, but they were overturned. You would think, well, this looks like wind damage, but it's all going downstream down the river channel instead. You could tell that it was the water that did it and not wind. So there's a lot of that debris still left to be cleaned up as well.
Yeah.
But it's nothing like what it was 6 months ago in the immediate aftermath of Helene.
It feels like Helene, in every aspect, every way you turn, haunts us in some way. Even the wildfire season, talking about all the debris that's down on the road. We're looking at some of the video right now. This is from December of 2024. So when you compare it to what Jesse has seen in April, you can see some of that progress there just in 4 or 5 months or so. There's the washed out bridge to Chimney Rock State Park that Jesse, you said they're rebuilding. That's going to be a huge tourism draw if they can get this town back up and running by this summer. Jesse, you've been to Western North Carolina a couple times since Helene. If memory serves, I think you were working that day and went towards Cleveland County and Rutherford for what we feared at the time was going to be a failure of the dam. Wasn't that you that we were coordinating with?
I was.
Oh my God, that's just coming back to me as we're talking now. It was a very scary moment. First of all, Jesse, I'm sitting in our newsroom, safe and sound in Charlotte, knowing that you guys are going out. And I remember you and I think we're on the phone. If this is literally coming back to me, I didn't write this down in my notes at all, but you were trying to find a spot along the Broad River because at the moment on the day on that Friday, we were afraid that the Lake Lure Dam was going to give way. And we were trying to forewarn communities downstream to evacuate or be ready to get to higher ground. And I remember talking to you, and were you with Kevin?
I was with Kevin, yes.
Kevin Wardlow. Okay. Yeah. And you were like, okay, we're here, we're by the river. And you were like, should I go over here or should I go over here? And I just remember being in the building, perfectly safe, looking at Google Maps going, whatever side of the river is the quicker way to run.
Yeah.
If this water comes rushing down, and it never did. The dam never gave way. It held. It was literally a miracle. But in all your time up there, and Jesse, I guess what memories are burned into your brain? Because I've got some that carry with me, but again, they're safe and sound inside of building. You're out there with the people. Like, what memories do you think you will carry for the rest of your life from your reporting during Hurricane Helene?
Well, I will say when we were there, we were, we were downstream area. And I think, I feel like if I remember correctly, that there was some level of evacuations, but people were coming to that bridge, that overpass, and taking photos and coming and just wanting to see it, firsthand. So I thought that was interesting. I think for me, it was more about like, okay, if this goes, I just need to be able to make sure we can leave on the opposite way. And so Kevin was like, yeah, we're good either way. We were in a safe space. And, you can see how you can see from the waves how much the water was just kind of passing through. But we were in a safe space. I will say one of the things that stood out, because I did spend a couple of days, in different parts, Boone and Cove Creek and so forth. Yeah. And Cove Creek, and I remember there was I did a couple of days in Cove Creek, and there was a couple of bridges that like connected a couple of households, and that was something I kept seeing in different areas in Cove Creek. And so there was a lot of bridges that disappeared or washed away. And so that would cut off any type of access for maybe a dozen houses on this side, another couple homes on this side experienced the same thing. So it was interesting to speak to some of those people and what they experienced. There was a woman, she also had her business and her home, and she took care of dogs or a pet business, and her home was flooded to a high level, and she had all these dogs that she was sitting for and so forth. And so having to rescue them and how high the water was. And, her business, she hasn't been able to get back, to making money or getting folks, since Helene hit. The bridge that was there is no longer there. So a makeshift bridge, a temporary one, was added. And who knows when a real one, not a real one, but a permanent solution will be put there, And yeah. I was there when the storm first hit, and I was there months later, and there was a car flipped in that waterway. I don't remember the name of that river, but there was a water that was flipped, and it was still there X amount later. So wow. Debris still needing to be cleaned up there, and that stood out to me, that car flipped in the water.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do a whole nother episode on this show, talking about summertime boating and kayaking and getting out on the water. And the water, there's a car damage right there, a different car than you were just talking about, but another car just stuck in debris. We're gonna get into summertime, people going out on the water, and the water may be different than it was last summer.
Yeah, that's true.
When they were there. Jesse, do you recall from any of your conversations if there are ways for people who are watching our show, listening to our show tonight, who might want to donate, ways they can help Chimney Rock or other communities?
I think if you know of any particular businesses, because some of them are able or have found different outlets to be able to still continue to operate this some way, somehow. I know with Chimney Rock, for example, like their main street is not open, but they had a particular area that you can come, and they were still having merchants or vendors and so forth kind of still operating there. But, the Hickory Nut, for example, if you know their business and you can find them online, that's great. And again, being there to support when they open their doors, yeah. And, and obviously they're not going to have the same level of capacity as far as people staying or hotel or et cetera. But when they are open, making sure that you're spending those dollars locally,
We do know that the Tryon Equestrian Center in nearby Tryon, North Carolina, has been hosting some small
Correct.
businesses.
Yes.
That's a place that, if you're watching or listening, you can go shopping there, maybe for a Mother's Day gift or something along those like. We do have some new numbers today from North Carolina Emergency Management. They put these numbers out, yesterday. 6.9 million cubic yards of debris have been removed. 3.5 million have been removed from the waterways alone, Jesse, as we were just talking about the water. You were talking about bridges and so many communities and homes that are accessed through private roads. 8.4K of FEMA private roadways and bridge projects awarded. So just over $8,000, I take it. 185 million from the National Flood Insurance Program. There are 8 households in FEMA transitional shelters. There's 242 of those FEMA mobile housing units that Jesse, our colleague Nate Morabito from WCNC Charlotte, had come on the Carolina Weather Group to talk about his reporting there with those housing units. About $436 million of individual assistance funding has been approved, just to read a few of those stats. And Jesse, I don't know if you saw this today from the governor of North Carolina, Josh Stein. 96% of roads damaged from Helene in North Carolina have now been repaired as of today.
Oh, okay. All right.
So progress being made, as we've seen in your reporting, Jesse. Progress is happening, but still a long way to go. So we look forward to we'll look forward to Chimney Rock hopefully reopening to the public this summer, and I think that'll be a magnificent moment when it happens.
Absolutely. I know that a lot of people are excited about it. And, I think that that's kind of the way most people operate, right? People are down, they want to come help. So I think that there'll be a lot of excitement for people to come out and support those businesses and to go back to Chimney Rock, because I'm sure there's people who vacation there, who, who have memories there, and they want to continue to create those. And, as Chimney Rock becomes stronger and better and et cetera, it's definitely going to be like a back to its tourist town level.
Well, that's what they want, right? That's what the
Exactly.
community thrives off of. Jesse, we appreciate your time here tonight and your reporting
Thank
over at
you.
WCNC. I'll let folks on our podcast know that if they want to go see the stories that you have filed just from this month alone in Chimney Rock, just hop on over to YouTube, type in WCNC Chimney Rock. You'll see 3 or 4 stories from Jesse alone here in recent weeks. But also, I will make mention that WCNC's Weather IQ YouTube channel uploaded, Jesse, your entire driving tour through Chimney Rock, and it's gotten a lot of views, which of course translates to a lot of awareness. And so that video is also online if you just kind of want to soak in about a 20-minute drive through Chimney Rock through the eyes of Jesse.
Yes, and the Spokes of Hope founder, he was great, and just kind of walking through, he's been there from the beginning, and just kind of walking through what has been done, the work that has been done, and he knows the people who he's like, this home, he was one that was telling me this home, we're salvaging everything and using it to build here and there. So it was a really good ride, to just get a good eye view of what's going on in there,
Yeah, absolutely. And again, what a remarkable, human effort we have seen in Chimney Rock and beyond, with these communities coming from far and wide to help with the rebuilding effort. If you want to learn more about what's been happening in some of these communities, I'll also let our viewers know over on our Carolina Weather Group channel, just scrolling back to December when we were there for their one-day Christmas market. It was quite an eye-opening experience, and would encourage folks to check that out as well too. But Jesse, appreciate all your reporting on WCNC, WCNC Plus, and the many, many, many platforms that we've got there.
Right,
And,
exactly.
we'll look forward to more of it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good show.
Thanks, Jesse. Frank and I will be right back with more Carolina Weather Group in 90 seconds.
And let you guys see what it is that I'm experiencing.
Trying to get a direct measurement with a handheld Kestrel anemometer here. We'll see what we can pick up, but and there goes change.
When a tornado-warned cell came through the neighborhood and it brought down several large pines, just like the one you're seeing right here behind me. To give you a sense of what the aftermath of storm damage smells like, it smells very heavily of pine and also sounds like chainsaws. We have another tree down here. This one just barely missing this brick home.
I mean, this is incredible. Let me turn the camera around, get us back into kind of a dry view.
And I get up here, and all of a sudden the storm surge started. And all of a sudden, I ended up with about 4 feet of water.
I'm Scotty Powell here reporting just outside of Sparta, North Carolina, where you've seen a lot of the earthquake damage. Again, a 5.1 magnitude earthquake rocked Sparta, North Carolina earlier this morning, just after 8 a.m.
If you go look at the footing of that, you'll see where it was a twist. Very severe wind that caused the destruction.
From Gaston County to back here in Mecklenburg County, those were just 2 of the tornado warnings that were issued here for the greater Charlotte area.
I'm not one for hyperbole, but it's countless at this point. There's trees on houses, there's a lot of roads that are blocked. We're just trying to get cleaned up so people can get through.
Have you ever seen the Dan River like this before?
No, not that I can recall. I mean, I've seen it fairly flooded before, but I've never seen it to where we're now kind of asking ourselves, okay, a couple more feet and it might.
You're watching the Carolina Weather Group, streaming live on this Wednesday night, April the 30th, on YouTube and Facebook. Frank, it's going to be May. There, I had to say it.
Yes, it is.
I can't.
The beginning of our long, hot summer.
Yes. Matter of fact, I can speak for Charlotte that April was the warmest April ever in Charlotte history. And those are records that go back to the late 1800s. And I would imagine where you are in Columbia, South Carolina, you couldn't have been that far different.
Yeah, Charlotte and Columbia both have a long period of record that dates back to the 1880s and 1890s. So, yeah, and I don't know how Columbia placed. I don't think it was in even a top 10 for us. But just because it wasn't here doesn't mean it wasn't. Wasn't in Charlotte.
We're overachievers here in Charlotte. We're really striving for that.
Trying to tell the people in Raleigh that.
Oh, man. Well, we are, what was the story this week? We're the 6th best place to live in all of the nation, says somebody who conducted a survey. Take that, Raleigh. I don't know what to make of that. But I'm just hoping we get maybe a little rain. We had some passing showers, a few rumbles of thunder, even a flash flood warning today on this Wednesday. But by and large, it's been very dry, and I can now see it in my grass, which is begging for a chance of rain. And we may get that on Saturday. Rain chances increasing as we head towards the weekend. Is that right?
That's right. And actually, parts of the Carolinas will see some rain even sooner than that. If you want to switch to my screen share, James, I'll talk about why. This is the current satellite view as of Wednesday evening across the Carolinas and the rest of our fruited plain here. And you can see there's this big blob of bright colors there on this infrared satellite imagery. Remember that senses temperatures and isn't actually looking at things the way our eyes sense things. But this allows us to tell where the clouds are and how high up the clouds are, because the higher clouds will be colder, and colder clouds, you can color code that and have those show up in the bright colors. And where you have those bright colors just means you have thunderstorms, because those are really high up, in the tops of them are really high up in the atmosphere, so it's really cold up there. So there's a big blob of thunderstorms over Texas, through the Arklatex into the mid-Mississippi Valley and into the Ohio Valley along a cold front. You can see there's some more spotty thunderstorms extending eastward along a warm front that goes to the North Carolina-Virginia line as of this evening. And that's the reason why you had a few thunderstorms around, mainly in North Carolina earlier today, and had some downpours and so forth. Well, over the next few days, we're going to see that cold front to our west make slow progress eastward. It's not moving very much at all right now, and that's because we have an upper level ridge over the southeast right now, and that's kind of deflecting the jet stream off to our north and taking storm systems with it. So we're not going to see a whole lot in the way of rain in the short term. But let me switch over here to the models. Here's the everybody's favorite model, the Euro. And this is first thing tomorrow morning, looking quiet in the afternoon. Over the mountains, we might see a thunderstorm here and there pop up. Maybe that sneaks into upstate South Carolina, mainly north of 85. But it looks as though we're going to be mainly warm and rain-free with highs mostly in the 80s. I've got our highs tomorrow somewhere. Let's see, that is the second. That's the first. So there's our highs across the Carolinas from weathermodels.com, well into the 80s in the usual warm spots along I-20 in South Carolina. Hottest spots may touch 90. That kind of extends over North Carolina's coastal plains, 87 or 88 for Raleigh, about 87 in Charlotte. So another toasty day there, and the only places seeing 70s are our coastal areas and in the mountains as well. Now, in time, we'll jump forward here to Friday afternoon and evening. There we go. There's the afternoon. There's a couple thunderstorms popping up almost in summertime fashion, and that's what Friday's going to be like. It's going to be a warm and relatively humid day with highs well in the 80s once again, and thunderstorm can pop up here and there. Not many of you are going to see much in the way of rain, so y'all don't get too excited about the rain prospects, but some of you will be blessed with a little bit of rain. The front does continue to push our way, and it looks like Saturday is the day for that. You can see the blob of precipitation showing up on the model here over the Tennessee Valley and getting into the Appalachians here by the time we get to Saturday morning. And then as we go through the day, we'll see those thunderstorms pushing eastward, but it looks like they'll be spotty in nature going through the afternoon and evening hours as that front pushes through. Looks like the severe weather risk is going to be pretty low this time. I can't rule out locally severe storm with damaging winds here and there as this cold front's thunderstorms pushes through, but I don't think that's going to be widespread. So I'm not terribly concerned about severe weather, but it was something you'll want to keep in the back of your head. And once we get past that, Saturday's probably a less hot day thanks to clouds and afternoon storms. But we cool off behind that front for Sunday. We're going to stay on the cool side for a while. Let's jump over to the highs again. There's your Saturday highs. Again, mainly 80s along the coastal plain and into the Piedmont, but 70s in the upstate of South Carolina and most of western North Carolina, including the foothills there, thanks to clouds and shower activity moving in earlier in the day. And then going on to Sunday, we're back to the 70s just about everywhere again. And it looks like we're going to see below normal temperatures going into Monday and Tuesday. And then by the time we get to the middle of next week, things are warming up again as the cool area of high pressure starts to slide away to the east. So that is our current weather setup, James. So I guess we can move on to rip currents now.
Yeah, as you were talking about, the weather that is on its way here, our own Carolina Weather Group, Dan Whitaker, has been out storm chasing, and we've actually been bringing some of that to our audience on our YouTube channel. This is video he shot earlier today in Texas. He's been in Iowa. He's been in Oklahoma. He's been in Nebraska. So anyway, if you want to kind of drive along with Dan, you can subscribe over to our Carolina Weather Group YouTube channel. He's been out there. Dan drove all the way from Greensboro out there to all those different states. And I mean, Frank, this is some amazing video he's got here from earlier. You can actually see the clouds circulating kind of broadly.
Right.
As I think he was waiting to see whether or not this particular storm was going to go tornado warned. I don't know if this one did, but some other ones certainly did.
Yeah, it looks like there's a bit of a wall cloud there that he's got his eyes on there over to the right.
Yeah.
So it's a nice shot there.
Yeah, we got that stuff for you. And of course, back here at home, if we do get any severe weather, you'll find it also on our YouTube channel. Check out our Carolina Weather Net. Real-time warning, sky cameras, forecast, all that jazz. Any place you watch YouTube. From your phone to your smart TV, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, rip currents. You've got them behind you. It is Rip Current Awareness Week because as the temperatures get warmer, people are going to be heading to the coast. And this is not just a coastal story. Thank you, animation, for that lovely sound. This is a regional story because the most drowning deaths that we see along the North Carolina and South Carolina coast, they come from inland visitors who maybe are not at like rip currents. And so, Frank, we do want to do our public service duty here tonight and helping educate our community on what are rip currents. So, what messaging do you think is important to share with folks here as we continue through Rip Current Awareness Week?
Well, the first thing I want to bring up, and you kind of mentioned this just a minute ago, James, is that it's not just a concern for people who live along the coast. It's a concern not just for people who live in Myrtle Beach or Charleston or Folly Beach or the Outer Banks. It's a place. It's a concern for everybody in the Carolinas. If you ever visit our coastal areas, which is a lot of people, probably most people, if you go to visit the beach every now and then. If you go in the water, there's a risk of rip currents. So it matters to if you live in Greenville or Asheville or Boone or Boomer or Gaston or any other little town or a bigger town in the Carolinas, or even further west too. If you live in Tennessee and you happen to be checking in with us and you want to come to our coast or any other beach, the rip currents are a potential concern there. So that's something important to keep in mind. When you go to visit the beach, you have to think about the potential for rip currents. Now, that's not an everyday thing. The conditions kind of have to be right for that. And one of the main scenarios that we have that results in rip currents is when you have a tropical cyclone that's passing, and can be passing way offshore. You can be thinking, oh, well, that hurricane, they're showing the satellite pictures of it going east of Bermuda. It's huge and it's ugly, and we're glad it's not here, but it's not a problem for us. Well, if you're visiting the beach, it is a problem for you.
Sure.
Because the swells that it generate crash ashore, and that wave action tends to push the mass of the water toward the shoreline, and that has to balance out somehow. And the way it balances out is with a rip current. And that graphic you had there, James, illustrates
go back
perfectly.
To it. Yeah. You know what's so striking about these graphics is it's the calm area of the water. You would almost think instinctively like, oh, it's calm, let me go swim over there. But that's where that undertow will pull you out.
Right. Just looking at it, you think, well, yeah, that looks kind of calm there. I think I'll go swimming there. Don't do that, because that's where the rip current is, and it's going to suck you out to sea. Not way out to sea, a couple of 100 yards probably at most, but that's a long way.
Enough to tire you out
over your head there.
Yeah,
and you can get tired out.
this happens in the Carolinas. Here's a photo from Kill Devil Hills, and you could see almost how hard it is to spot. But if you look at that wave, there's a spot where it's a little bit flatter, a little bit calmer, and that's where that undertow is. We've got another photo from Surf City, same deal. It's that little slip right on in there. And so these are the things that officials want you to be able to spot because, as we showed you a moment ago, rip currents in the Carolinas in the last quarter century, by far, topping weather fatalities more so than tornadoes, floods, lightning, wind, or tropical systems combined. 192 rip current deaths here in the Carolinas. That is 192 too many.
Right, exactly, because they're all preventable. Maybe not all preventable, but almost all of them are preventable if people know what to do if they encounter a rip current.
Next time I'll render this animation without sound on it, but floating. So yes, she wants you to float out and then swim parallel, right, Frank?
Exactly. Relax, stay calm, don't panic. Just because you're being pulled out to sea is not something to panic about. If you know what to do,
seems like something you might want to panic about, but
right,
don't.
The first instinct is to panic because you're caught in a rip current. You're being pulled away from shore, and there's nothing you can do about it. Your second instinct is to, I better swim against this current as hard as I can, or else that's not going to work, y'all. That rip current is pushing water out to sea faster than you can swim. Which means if you try to swim against that current, you're not going to make any progress. As a matter of fact, you end up still going out to sea, just slower.
It'll tire you out.
And you get tired.
Yeah.
And that is when you are in real trouble. So instead, you kind of have to go with the flow. It seems counterintuitive, but you kind of have to go with the flow at first until you can assess what's going on. So don't panic. It's okay to go with the flow at first, at least. Stay calm. Fill your air with lungs. Your lungs with air. And don't instead try to stay afloat. And then once you've kind of gotten yourself reoriented, swim perpendicular to the current, parallel to the shore, and that will take you out of the rip current.
Yeah, and then you'll be able to swim back in.
Right, and you don't have to swim. You can kind of lie on your back and keep your air full of lungs and breathe shallow and dog paddle or just paddle your way one way or the other toward the out of the rip current. And once you're free of the rip current, then you can work your way back to shore.
Yeah. One of the things I will admit in this animation, and I'm coming from a guy who grew up on an island, that I had never considered before is, if you're on the beach and you see somebody caught in a rip current, find something that floats, whether it's, this lifesaver, preserver, or really anything, and put it in the rip current. It will also pull that item out to the individual. That gives you on shore time to find a lifeguard, call 911, find somebody who might be able to aid this person in a manner that would be safe to do so. I think, I always like, Frank, going to a beach where there is a lifeguard on duty. That is always the safest bet. But if that, for some reason, is not available where you are, here are some tips I'll come back to Frank's tips here in a second. Here are some tips for how to swim without a lifeguard if the beach has no lifeguard on duty. Adhere to all posted signs. Only enter the water if you can swim safely. Never swim alone. I think that one's key because if you get caught in a rip current, having someone on shore who can call for help would be really vital. And of course, keep children in sight and always within arm's reach. What graphic do you have here, Frank?
The survival guide for being caught in a rip current. And I was just kind of reading through that a moment ago. But the bottom line, first and foremost, again, counterintuitive when you're out there, chill, y'all. Don't panic. Stay calm as you can. Keep your wits about you. Fill your air with lungs. Don't panic. And just float at first. And it's okay. Again, it's okay to go with the flow. You can take that time to kind of wave and signal to people at shore that you're in trouble, that you're caught in a rip current. But once you have again reoriented yourself, swim parallel to shore, perpendicular to the current. That will get you out of the current, and then you can work your way back to shore. And even if you don't know how to swim, again, you're just trying to stay afloat, keep your lungs as full of air as you can, and just kind of paddle your way parallel to shore out of the rip current, and then paddle your way kicking whatever back to shore. And that gets you back with the exerting the least amount of effort, because you do need to conserve your energy when you're caught in a rip current, because you may have a fairly long swim or dog paddle or whatever to get back to shore. Again, don't fight the current. Don't swim against the rip current.
It'll be a losing battle.
That's just going to get you tired. You're probably not going to be able to make any progress against the rip current.
Yeah. So it is Rip Current Awareness Week, and those are things to keep in mind all year round, especially as we head into the warmer months. As we get a little bit closer to the end of our show here tonight, I'm going to do a new segment that I'm calling Too Many Tabs. They're all the tabs I have open that I wanted to talk about. My first one, Frank, as we come up on hurricane season, you mentioned tropical impacts for rip currents and the things. The National Weather Service reminding us today that for the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, which starts before you know it, the experimental cone graphic will now show inland wind warnings, making it easier to spot storm risks and helping state and local leaders, families, and communities, that's you, me, and everyone else, stay safe during storms. They actually posted the Hurricane Helene forecast cone from last September. And you can see, if you're watching with us, all the yellows and the blues and the reds that outline those hurricane warnings, those tropical storm warnings. And that's a change from years past when they would just put those along the coast. They're trying to message, and Frank, I know you've heard this over and over again at the various conferences and things you've been to. They're trying to message folks that a tropical system is not just going to impact the shore with storm surge. It's going to bring rain and wind inland. And so in this experimental graphic from last year that we're getting more and more familiar with seeing, you can actually see for Helene, even before it made landfall. I mean, the circulation here on this particular graphic on September the 25th, 2024 was still off of Cancun near Mexico. They already had tropical storm watches all the way up into North Carolina, and you could see those there. Frank, you were just at a emergency manager conference, right? Talking about messaging hurricane risks.
That's right, and that's one of the things we were talking about at the National Hurricane Conference. It was held in New Orleans this year, and aside from eating a lot of jambalaya, I spent some time. Naturally, I brought a 5-pound bag of it home with me too. But, it's easy for me to digress about food, but. Anyway, one of the things we talked about is, yes, messaging hurricane risks, and of course there are 4 that you have to watch out for. Everyone knows about the high winds that a hurricane can cause. Everyone knows that there is a storm surge. There's also heavy rain that can lead to inland flooding, and that sort of depends upon the storm. Remember, no 2 hurricanes are alike. We sometimes compare a hurricane that's coming to one that's happened in the past, but no 2 hurricanes are going to be exactly alike. And finally, there's number 4, which is a bit of a wild card, which is the risk of tornadoes. That tends to be highest near the coast, but sometimes even a couple of days after a tropical cyclone makes landfall, you'll have a big tornado outbreak inland. We had that happen over the last couple of years, not so much in the Carolinas, although we did have Fred and Elsa back in 21 that caused several tornadoes. Helene caused 21 tornadoes in South Carolina and some more in North Carolina. Debbie caused a few tornadoes too. One of the bigger ones was Francis, actually the biggest one in South Carolina. We had 46 tornadoes from Francis back in 2004, and a nasty tornado outbreak from, I think it was not even a Hurricane Beryl in 94 that came up and did some, caused, I think, 29 tornadoes. No, it was 23. I'm sorry, 23 tornadoes in South Carolina.
I was going to compliment you for knowing all this off the top of your head. I don't know if you're right or not, but I
have to keep track of this and make charts and graphs about it. So it's easy to keep this in mind. So I can tell you all this about South Carolina. North Carolina, not so much. I'll let the North Carolina State Climate Office speak to that. But
and they would if they were
those risks are there and they're real, and you have to be prepared for them. So that's why hurricanes are such a big deal for us.
I will use that as a segue, if I may. We have some new images from South Carolina's Forest Service as we are going to move from rip current awareness to wildfire awareness, which I think has been very, very much on everyone's mind this year, especially post Helene. But, they sent these pictures from Table Rock, where we've had fires, of course, already this year. And there's 2 things in this photo that are striking to me, and I'm trying to see if there's a good way for me to zoom in on this, Frank. And we talked a little bit about this while the fire there in Chimney Rock in upstate South Carolina was still burning a couple of weeks ago. Let's see if I can zoom this in. Maybe not. Perfect. Here we go. So this photo is intended to show the burn scars from the fire. And you can certainly see if you're watching along with us. If not, I'll narrate it for our audio podcast listeners. We have the lovely green, I think there's maybe or mostly pines that you can see along the ridges here. But then we've got an area right in the center of the photo where we've got the darkened burn scars from the fire. But you can also see the trees toppled over. And that's from Helene. That's from, as we were just talking about, all those different hurricane impacts. There's a lot happening in this photo, Frank.
Yeah, right. That's part of the reason why the Table Rock fire and the other fires over western North Carolina and upstate South Carolina were as bad as they were, because of all the debris left behind by Helene, the downed trees and limbs and other debris that's laying on the forest out there. That it's been becoming seasoned over the last 6 months, and then you had a wildfire get started, and it's just a tinderbox, and it expands very rapidly.
Yeah, if this is something you, our audience, are interested to learn more about, I think it's something I'm interested in learning more about. I think we might try to get somebody from the South Carolina Forestry Commission or like agency on, because there's so much that I'm learning as we go through this, and so much more that I want to learn because there's so many different impacts happening here as we head into the warmer still. And I'll tell you, we had a couple of prescribed burns. Anson County, Stanley County come to mind. I think there was one in Kings Mountain area, all here in North Carolina. And we had some wildfires burning out towards Wilmington, all putting particles up into the atmosphere. Murrow Mountain State Park had a prescribed burn this week, Frank, of 720 acres. That was blowing smoke all the way into Asheboro, North Carolina. Prescribed or not, intentional or not, you're getting all of that smoke kicking up. And I think we saw it a little bit today with the ozone, and the air quality across much North Carolina was in that kind of yellow. Sensitive groups probably noticed it most easily as we had kind of a haze, at least where I was here today in Charlotte.
Right, and those prescribed berms will do that, and it's an inconvenience, but it beats having all that debris laying on the forest, on the ground in the forest, and being ready to be burned up by a wildfire in an uncontrolled manner that could end up also burning your house or someone else's. So those prescribed burns are very important.
Photo here from Jason Boyer, Chief Meteorologist at WLOS, that I thought maybe would just put a smile on our face. I don't know if you've had a chance to see this one. He got this from a viewer. Amber McKendrick captured this at WCU, but it is a rainbow and a lightning strike.
Nice. That's a nice.
Mother
shot.
Nature can be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That is
and if you're
quite the view.
If you're in the right place at the right time and your finger hits the shutter button at just the right time, you can get a photo like that.
Do you think she was taking she must have been taking lots and lots of photos?
It's probably a still frame from a video.
Or that, yeah, because that's just incredible. And the path that lightning decides to take, up and down and left and right, that's a whole nother.
Right. You imagine a lightning bolt as being just a kind of a straight line, but it's not like that at all.
It's not at all. It goes up
random
at one point.
paths that end up going from point A to point B in a very circuitous route, I guess.
Yeah. Frank, what's on your screen share? How many tabs do you got open for us?
A bunch, but there's one in particular that I wanted to talk about. With May getting underway, May is Hurricane Preparedness Month in South Carolina. That is the homepage from SCEMD, the Emergency Management Division. In South Carolina, you need to be prepared for hurricanes and other disasters, and that applies, as we saw illustrated with Helene. You need to be prepared in Oconee County, just the same as you need to be prepared in Beaufort or Horry or Charleston County. No, I mispronounced that. Charleston County. That accent has kind of gone away in time, but there are some people who still say it that way. Anyway, no matter where you are in South Carolina, Hurricane Preparedness Month gets underway May 1st. That's starting in hours now rather than days.
Yeah.
And
which, by the way, that's the deadline to file taxes in South Carolina, extended for Helene.
Oh, that's
May
right.
1st.
I forgot about that.
So if you haven't done it yet, you should probably turn the show off and go do it.
No, don't turn the show off.
Okay, put it on in the background. If you're in North Carolina, you're automatically qualified until, I want to say, September 1st.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit of an extension because of Helene, I guess.
Everyone automatically qualifies for Helene. I'm going to verify North Carolina one. I completely cut you off, but
that's okay.
Please.
Well, we went off on tangents there, but the important thing is get prepared. Hurricane season starts on June 1st, and May is Hurricane Preparedness Month, so we're trying to raise awareness of the need to be prepared. So take the time to prepare, and if you don't know how to prepare, well, the preparation experts at SCEMD have their hurricane guide, which you can find. I'm going to type it in here real quick. Hurricane.sc. And there it is, South Carolina's Hurricane Guide, hurricane.sc, where South Carolinians can learn what they need to do to prepare for hurricanes, what supplies they need, what to do for your pets, how to find your evacuation zones, what to do in an evacuation situation,
good
and
info.
more. So visit SCEMD's hurricane.sc website to learn more about what you need to do for hurricane prep. There's also an earthquake.sc. For the same thing, by the way. We've been shaking a little bit again over by Elgin.
You have.
Not much, but a little bit. So
enough for Elgin to go.
Active.
Still here. I'm still here. Remember me?
Right.
Earthquake.
Right.
I'm still here. Hopefully we don't need any of these hurricane preparedness things, but that's the key about being prepared, folks. You don't know that you need it until you need it. So go ahead. Now is the time to get prepared.
You need it.
You definitely.
One of the things that goes into a publication that I do, our Hurricane Executive Summary, which, by the way, I'm about to release an update to that soon. Once we get some final hurricane impact numbers from the Hurricane Resource Division, should come out in the next week or two. Then I'll get that update out. But anyway, the important thing is we have in South Carolina an 88% chance, based on the last 50 years of last 50 hurricane seasons, 88% chance of being impacted by a named storm.
There you go. Which we know we will get at least a average number of, if not slightly more, based on the outlooks issued so far by NC State and CSU.
Yeah, that's right. We're expecting an above average season, so the odds are even better that we'll have to deal with at least one this year. Last year we had two, and they were both big ones.
They were.
We had Helene. Oh, I should probably talk about the story map we put out too for Helene and Debbie. There.
Okay, while you pull that up, I will close the most calendar year taxes to file and pay income tax without incurring a penalty is September 25th, 2025. There you go. And
there you go.
And again, South Carolina, yours is in 2 hours. If you're watching live, if you're listening to the audio podcast feed tomorrow, sorry.
No.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, there it is on my screen share. The intro
Debbie
to the ArcGIS Story Map we put together at the State Climatology Office to talk about the impacts of Debbie, Helene, and the lack of anything happening in between any of those storms. It was a feast or famine year with rainfall. It absolutely refused to rain unless a tropical cyclone brought us an absolute deluge.
Feast or famine.
Right. So we went from flooding to drought to flooding to drought. And then I think back to flooding again in a few areas with a non-tropical system in the fall last year. So anyway, this talks about most of those things. And you can find it. Where's the URL? The easy short URL. There it is. dnr.sc.gov/storms2024.
Got it.
If you want to go have a look at that story map yourself, or you can go to the State Climatology Office's homepage. Just do a web search, South Carolina State Climatology Office. There's a button to this on that homepage.
Debbie and Helene are definitely storms that are going to stick with us for years to come. But Frank, as you were just talking, there's another one from 2024 that I feel like sometimes we all, at least myself, forget about in North Carolina. And that was potential tropical cyclone 8.
Well, that's because it wasn't a tropical cyclone.
It wasn't a named tropical cyclone. It almost was. It almost was. It got so close, and hindsight being 2020, we named our episode the week before Helene, Historic Flooding in the Carolinas from Not Helene, because we thought PTC 8 was going to become Helene. Like it was on the cusp of becoming Helene.
Right. That Helene was the next name
correct
in the queue there.
Correct. Yeah, right. To be clear, this is not the storm that was Helene. But just in terms of the naming queue, PTC 8 earlier in that same September was so close to being named. We built all of our graphics going into that show on September 18th, thinking Helene was like minutes away from being named, which would have made actual Helene a different name.
Yeah.
Which
I
I
don't
can't
remember
remember
what
now.
the next name was after Helene.
I don't remember now. But my point being is, you're talking about Helene and Debbie in South Carolina, and certainly yours is notably in South Carolina. North Carolina. I'm constantly trying to remind myself that, especially in that Wilmington area, PTC 8 earlier in September, a week or so before Helene, brought 12 or 18 inches there too, and it was an astounding amount of rain in such a short period of time in those little bursts. Debbie, PTC 8, Helene.
Right. And that was mostly a North Carolina thing. We did get some
100%.
rain from PTC,
yeah.
PTC 8.
To be clear, I'm not
region.
Faulting your report at all. Yeah. I wasn't.
Right.
I didn't mean it to sound like that.
It was mostly a North Carolina thing.
Yes.
But we did get some wind and rain, just not a lot. Well,
Yeah.
it was a lot, but being that there was a drought going on at the time, it wasn't that big
It felt
of a
like there was
deal.
always a drought going on unless we were in the thick of it. Yeah. Hurricane season starts June 1st. Great report there from South Carolina. Again, no disrespect to your report. The PTCA thing is almost purely on this side of the border. Before we go, a question from Dip, a frequent viewer of the Carolina West. He writes, I've had this on my mind for some time. Is GSP G for Greenville, S for Spartanburg, and P for Piedmont? Or is it G for Greenville, SP for Spartanburg? I always assumed it was the latter, Frank.
I don't know. It could be
I don't know
either
either.
one. I don't know.
I tried Googling it while you were talking before, and I couldn't find an answer.
Next time we have Trisha Palmer on, we should.
We will find out, Dip. We will find out this hard-hitting question. If we had Scotty on, my closing question was going to be to Scotty, how did Bill Belichick meet his girlfriend? But that joke only would be funny.
We probably don't want to know. We probably don't want to know.
So thank you to Dip for asking a better question for me to end this show on.
Yes, but you opened the can of worms anyway, didn't you? You just couldn't resist, could you?
I could not. Hey, if he wasn't coaching here in North Carolina, then I'd have no relevance to bring it up, right?
Yeah, this upcoming football season is going to be entertaining. It may not be because UNC's any good at football. It's just will probably be entertaining for one reason or another. Maybe they'll be good. Who knows? We'll see. College football these days, you never can tell. No.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. How far we've come from the start of this episode, but thanks again to Jessie Pierre from WCNC for sharing with us her recent reporting from Chimney Rock. There are all these different communities in Western North Carolina and upstate South Carolina that are still recovering from Helene all these months later. And, it's been our pledge and our mission here at the Carolina Weather Group to keep our finger on that pulse, no matter how far away we get from the storm. If there are still impacts to talk about them, we know that so many of the roads are open, but not all of the roads are open. We know some of these towns still are trying to get infrastructure rebuilt. As Jesse mentioned, private roads and bridges and funding in place. There's all sorts of debate and political sparring over who's paying for what. That is definitely the subject of a different podcast matter. We will tell you all sorts of nerdy atmospheric things, but that is just to say 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, whatever it takes, we'll continue to keep all of those folks in mind. Frank, any other closing thoughts?
No, my mind is blank.
Yeah. After 10 o'clock now.
It's been a long day and I didn't sleep well last night, so I'm about to crash, James.
I'm going to let Frank crash. We'll let all of you with the rest of your day. We appreciate you being here with us. Please, I know it sounds phony, but Frank's asleep. Like and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening from. It really does help. Or share it with a friend. We're just trying to get the word out of as we go into the summer months and get more people hopefully joining us over here at the Carolina Weather Group. We appreciate you being here and hope you bring a friend. BYOF. Yeah, that works, right?
And Auburn's right. Don't forget your mom.
Thanks,
Day,
Auburn.
A week from Sunday. Thanks for reminding me.
I have a calendar invite on my calendar that says, "You idiot. Go buy your wife a Mother's Day card," because I have two 2 children who I'm very grateful for. But I very much have I think it's on May 1st. I think it says, "You idiot, go buy a card." So
do it now. Don't wait till Saturday.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Frank, good to see you. And thanks to everybody watching and joining us here on the Carolina Weather Group. I'm James Brierton. We will be back again next week with another edition of the show and streaming whenever the weather warrants on our Carolina Weather Group YouTube channel. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Night, y'all.